Chronic. She currently runs a leadership consulting firm. She's an independent director on boards of 3 companies, and she's an adjunct professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where she teaches in the Executive MBA program and the Entrepreneurial MBA program on topics of strategy formulation, execution, and leadership. Lori, thank you so much for joining us. We're looking forward to hearing about your experiences working with universities.
Yeah, happy to be here. Nice to see everyone.
How
Welcome.
are you today?
Good. Very well, thanks.
Why am I not hearing?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I
Yeah.
can. Sorry,
Okay.
I had a little adjustment for my technical job. So let's dive right into it. You've done a lot of work with European universities, especially when more of them had professor privilege, under which professors have a right to their innovations. Tell us about how you did that, how you worked with those universities.
Well, you're right, Kathleen. Thank you so much for having me, by the way. Welcome, everyone. I have been involved most of my career, and I'm pretty passionate about the whole university and industry linkage and collaboration. Some of the things we did worked, some of them not so much, but most of the companies I worked with were public and sort of short-term focus, right? So a lot of quarterly results orientation. But I was responsible for R&D and innovation of the solution. So I needed to connect with more of the university personnel that were working on longer term, but hopefully something that could be commercialized. So sort of what drove me through all of this was trying to find those right ideas that were ripe for development, that we could put our resources on top of the insights from the academics and really bring something to life midterm that would either substantially impact healthcare or completely disrupt the kind of outcomes we were getting. So over the years, I've been doing this for like 38 years now, I've seen a couple of patterns sort of emerge, and I think my European experience really helped because there was this professor privilege, which opened my eyes to some other elements of value that were worth exploring. And I can't hear you, Kathleen.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
We were talking about our technical problems. Can you give me an example of a collaboration you did?
Oh, yeah, so many of them. Probably the one that's easiest to explain is my work with one of these. It was called a neuronavigation technology. Its technical name was transcranial magnetic stimulation, but that's quite a mouthful, so let's just call it TMS. But the company was NextStim. They're based in Finland. And because of the rules there with regards to professorships, they had this privilege or the right to commercialize. So in 2000, they formed a company called NextStim, a little spin out, and they then were able to separate their work from the university from this company. But it was based on a decade of work that they had been doing at the university. But because the professors remained involved in it, they were able to assist the engineers as they developed what I call the wraparound software, utility patents, algorithms, databases, and know-how and trade secrets that actually created something that we could take to market in the short term. It accelerated the ability for that technology to really come into play. So over that next time period, which was about 10 years before they actually got through some clinical trials, the company worked with them to fund graduate students, to fund grants. They did a number of sort of basic and applied research work.
What was the company you were with?
NextStim, N-E-X, yeah.
Okay. And so what you were developing was going to be a NextStem product.
Yes, it's a non-invasive magnetic stimulation of the brain, which allows for mapping of the inner structures to help you with surgery, but also to help with depression treatment and pain, chronic pain treatment. So a lot of applications, but what they had done in the lab was not really ready for clinical use. As you know, it's quite a long journey for healthcare products to get through reimbursement, FDA clearance, et cetera. So it takes time, but it was worth it.
So, and I should say, if anyone has questions, put them in the chat and I'll be watching it, to ask them. But Go ahead, Laura. You were going to add one more
I,
thing.
I was just going to say the cool thing about this particular collaboration with this university is that those two professors stayed with the company for a decade, mostly as a medical advisor, but they continued to sort of provide insights and backdrops and became shareholders. So when they went to their IPO and hundreds of these systems got sold and they continue to sell, they're able to benefit and their lab benefits from that as well.
So let's just outline, because I'm sure one of the questions people have is how you dealt with the IP and how you dealt with the royalties. So let's talk about that and outline what each of you got from it, right? What were the benefits on each side?
Yeah, so the IP in this case was really a key part of the whole strategy. So the company had to add a lot of additional intellectual property, right? The wraparound utility patents they had to develop, trademarks, copyrights, but a big part of it was an algorithm which became more and more intelligent with every use, with every application. So this sort of model worked well for the university because what they were able to build was a tremendous reputation. And what happened over time as they published additional papers, basic and applied research that came from ongoing grants from the company, is they became really known as a company or a university that could spin off companies. So they had an example like Neuromag, which later got bought by Electa, Datex, which became $1 billion company, eventually purchased by GE. They became known as sort of the seed of those translational and applied research. So while at this point in time, they did not benefit from royalties. What they did benefit from is they became a magnet across Europe to attract the professors, the graduate students, additional research grants from other kinds of startups and both federal and industry money, which then grew this low temperature lab reputation. And almost all of their graduates were placed in pretty high jobs after graduation from their postdocs. So they became, sort of an accelerating, more and more prolific and more capable and known in the world as this center of excellence. So, whether the license fee had been part of that, really was less material on where they are today as part of Aalto University, because they have created this synergistic value with these other companies. They really have now very solid reputation and relationships, and it's been that sort of ongoing involvement of the inventors with the industry partner to sort of guide each other to this excellence they both sought.
So were there royalties at all to the university, or was the arrangements just with the professors?
The arrangements are with the professors for their time and for the IP, but the benefits for the university were massive. I had a tour there last year, and they credit a lot of the growth of their success and reputation and the flow of research monies from many different sources, which is a problem for in Europe and America and elsewhere as government funding is drying up. So becoming known as a technology innovator that can spin and work with industry really helps bring in alternate sources of revenue for the university.
So historically, especially after Bayh-Dole was adopted in 1980, tech transfer offices have focused on patents and long-term exclusive relationships. You did something a little different here, but
Yeah.
generally, how has the world's focus, the world's focused on software and AI and data. How has that started changing that model?
Yeah, so a lot of the companies that I worked with, the core technology patent it is and continues to be very valuable. But, increasingly now that I teach strategy, I'm very passionate about this, that the value creation in the marketplace will come from the ecosystem. It comes from the alliances, the partnerships, the data pools, and the experience insights that are drawn only after application. So the partnership of university insights and patents with the capability for scale up commercialization and I'll call it reimbursement strategies that can increase uptake and participation, that becomes really value enhancing. And so whatever falls through to those who had part of the seed idea, it really behooves you to think about how we can release this technology into the ecosystem and encourage uptake and participation. So, for that to happen, I know it's challenging for tech transfer offices because I've worked with many of them around the world. But when you have that sort of mindset that the patent and the licensing fee needs to be negotiated for maximum value, can kind of take away the importance of other sources of value, and in the process make it less likely for that technology to actually take off.
Well, I'm sure there are all kinds of pressures on these offices to think of it the way it's always been thought of. It's
Yeah.
almost like you have to educate all their stakeholders, right? Um,
Yes, yes.
so what are some ideas, if you were running a tech transfer office right now, how would you deal with this new landscape and the changes in the world?
Yeah, this is when I consult with businesses where a lot of us are facing really disruptive change. We have to really rethink our reason for being, our source of value. And if I was asked to call into a tech transfer office and say, how can you add value? I think a lot of what universities have is the benefit of multidisciplinary experts that are looking at the future and are playing on the edge. And so it's always been a bit of a interesting pursuit for me to wonder why tech transfer offices aren't thinking about their valuation in a more medium and long term. Because I was there, I had the short term quarter to quarter pressures, but because I needed to create value even in the future, a year or two, three from now, I had a responsibility to think about how else could we create value. And so first thing I would recommend is think differently about what success looks like. What does the university need, and how could tech transfer help? So by rethinking that, you can think about, the attraction of students, the attraction of other research monies, the attraction of other types of high-end professors, and creating centers of excellence that resonate across the globe. And with that comes value for the university. But the other sort of really tactical thing, which I'd love to sort of chat about with the group because I'm curious about this, is, in Silicon Valley, there's a concept called mashups, right? Where we bring together people from a few different technologies and we put them together for a weekend or a night and we ask them to solve a problem together. But because one of them is involved in software and the other one's in hardware, the other one's in data structures, when they mash up, they come up with incredible results. And it's one of our favorite innovation techniques. So I'm sort of wondering whether tech transfer offices could be useful in a way to bring together either groups of professors from various aspects of the university and have them work on problems that matter to industry. So industry would post a challenge and then you would have this mashup event and the professors could kind of kick it around with graduate students and well facilitated could come up with some potentially fundable and publishable ideas. And even to extend that idea further, if you coordinated that with the expertise that comes from industry, where you've got other knowledge bases about sources of data and application and what the consumer really will or won't do, et cetera, it kind of sounds very interesting. And I'm just wondering why, or if it is happening, I'm just not aware of it. But I think that's a real concrete way that tech transfer offices could explore the edge of value creation for their universities and in the process create value for the world.
So we're going to leave it at that tantalizing suggestion. I failed to mention at the beginning one fact about Lori that I just want everyone to know, particularly our Northwestern friends. Lori is the first woman to ever play hockey on an NCAA men's hockey team, and she did it at Northwestern. So
I did many, many years ago, too many to mention, before we had
Lisa
women's
Dar is clapping her hands. And we would be happy to, if anyone wants to talk further with Lori, just let us know and we'll give you her contact info. And she's got a lot of great ideas. So wanted to put her in front of everybody. And we are now, Tammy and I are going to switch laptops and we're going to start moving people into their next rooms. So we'll have a little bit of logistics stuff here. Thank you so much, Lori. That was great hearing.
You're very welcome. Thanks, everyone. Have a great meeting. Bye-bye.